Listen, so film festivals this year have delivered some pretty incredible movies because I've been able to catch over 200 films from this year that we fully covered over on the Intercut podcast. But here, I just want to pick out the best of the best for you. There's been a lot that have been released that I'm hoping to cover soon as full LMEs, but as I usually do, I'll be breaking them down between the genres so that you can hopefully add something to your watch list that'll top your own must-watch movies of the year. But first, film festivals ain't cheap, and in order to stay independent and give you the most honest reviews, we gotta give a quick shout out to this video sponsor for making it possible. Kalshi is the first legal financial exchange in the US that lets you trade on events founded by two MIT engineers that's expanded to all 50 states, and they keep growing their movie markets. Pretty much think of like Gold Derby, where people are following along to see what the next Oscar winner is and predicting the stats and how high they'll go, what the next movie that's going to break the box office record, or whatever other trends that are in pop culture. But besides having the most up-to-date data, it lets you actually make money. Like they had a market for the Oscars this year where you could place bets on nominees, and Emma Stone, for whatever reason, was favored so low that I walked home with some gold just like she did. Now they developed a new market for Rotten Tomatoes, which every Hollywood studio depends on, to the point that even Rotten Tomatoes has a weekly show unveiling the score on whether it's fresh or not, and now you can put your movie knowledge to the test and make some money. Take one of the biggest movies out of South by with The Fall Guy. You're able to go on the site and be able to place a bet on shares before the opening weekend based off of $1, meaning that you can place $10 on how fresh it's going to be and be able to make this much back. So if you're interested, give it a gander by clicking the link down below and get a $20 bonus if you're one of the first 500 people to use the code. And now, on to the must-watch list. Let me explain. Starting off with the genres, which is all the horrors, the thrillers, and the comedies, I'm beginning my top 10 with Thelma, an action comedy starring June Squibb, who's in her first leading role somehow, at the age of 93. It's based on the director's own grandma who got scammed online and then went on a scooter-assisted mission in order to gain justice. It has her doing her own stunts, she's got a Tom Cruise run in the movie, she's locked and loaded with a titanium hip, and honestly, she really does become a senior citizen beekeeper. Next up is a horror film called In a Violent Nature that may have one of the best kills this year. I'm not even lying. Like, it was hyped up for me before I saw the movie, and it delivered. Literally, it just follows this slow-moving killer as he walks around the woods, taking people out, and it's brutal. It got picked up by Shudder, so if you're not someone who likes patient thrillers, wait for the stream, but at least keep it on your watch list.
Animals don't get too hung up on reason. They just keep killing.
Stress Positions lives up to its title because it takes place during peak COVID, where a man named Terry Goon is babysitting his injured model nephew, and this man makes mistakes on top of mistakes. It's one of those where everything that can go wrong does. Everyone's talking over each other, so if you like a movie like Uncut Gems where that happens, this is the comedy version for you. I know it already got picked up by Neon, so it should be out soon.
You know, I read that in Morocco, people eat with their hands.
We're eating with our hands.
Not hamburgers. Tagine.
For the Broad City fans, I've got the comedy Babes. That's actually directed by Bobby Hill herself.
It's incredible to be here in Austin. I wore my Bobby socks. Hello.
It follows two friends as they start to drift apart when they start building their own families, especially when one of them, who was not supposed to get pregnant, gets pregnant on accident. It's one of those that has a dozen jokes a minute, and I think that most of them land. It's definitely more of the Alana Glazer show, but I think that Michelle Buteau adds a lot of drama to it, and she's always there being snappy with a lot of the bits. But I think what really stands out is that it's a fun buddy film where the two people actually start to outgrow each other, and it questions why that tends to happen. A lot of the comments on the trailer are kind of funny because they're adding things that aren't in the movie, but look, I think people are going to find it really goofy. It's like in the vein of something like Bridesmaids. They're getting ready for a release for Mother's Day, so it should be out soon.
I've had sex, but I was on my period. So you can't get pregnant on your period.
Girl,
stop.
Girl, you stop. We went to the same school. We learned the same shit.
My Old Ass is a Sundance comedy about a girl who faces an older version of herself, played by Aubrey Plaza, after going on a shroom trip and given her warnings about her future that slowly start to come true. It's directed by Megan Park, who previously directed The Fallout that had Jenna Ortega, and I thought that one was pretty good. And here, it's Macy Stella who steals the show. Like, I heard that she had inspired Billie Eilish with a lot of her looks and stuff, and I mean, yeah, you see it in this movie. It's also produced by Margot Robbie, movie, so hopefully it gets a solid release and a trailer soon. Moving on to my top 5, I have another movie that also only has one image to show, and that's Desert Road. See, there was a lot of time loop movies at these festivals, like Omni Loop, that follows a woman who's been diagnosed with a black hole in her chest, so now she's reliving the same day over and over again. There was also Things Will Be Different, that has two siblings using a time loop to get away with a robbery, but Desert Road stood out to me the most. It follows a young woman after crashing in the middle of nowhere and then gets trapped in a cycle where time moves faster than she does, but she can't leave that desert. I thought it was a great way of breaking down self-doubt and those moments where you get stuck in life, and it's all anchored by a solid performance from Christine Froseth, who also does a great job in everything she's in. Moving on to my number 4, it's a movie that's actually directed by Larry David's daughter and her best friend. I loved it. This is a rom-com gone wrong about a woman who falls in love with a news anchor played by Jack Nicholson's kid, who quickly turns their love into like a horror story. You can say that it's based off some, celebrity exes and gossip, but really this is like a visual of all the buzzwords that we're always hearing, that are always being used, but it's all explained in movie form. It's got a great cast, it's produced by Diablo Cody, and it's one of those that everyone's gonna know somebody who should probably be watching this. Like, if you don't want to go to therapy, then go watch this movie.
You enjoying your pie?
All pie is good pie.
Hitman is a new Richard Linklater movie about an undercover guy who pretends to be various hitmen in order to take down the bad guys, and it's an absolute blast. It's supposed to be based on a true story, but you know that they're shifting some things around. Glenn Powell's fantastic. There's a scene with Adria that had my whole crowd clapping, and I know that Jason Bateman is a producer on this, and that's how they were able to get like that sweet Netflix deal, but damn, this would have been really fun in theaters.
This is good.
At number 2 is another thriller that they've been keeping a secret. Like, literally, there's one image for this as well. Literally, the press notes crossed out everything that they don't want us to say, other than it's a pre-wedding party where a group of friends reunite and one of them brings a mysterious suitcase to play a game. Man, this one's so good, I caught it at both festivals. Netflix picked this up, which, again, 17 mil, great deal. I'm glad it's on Netflix, but it is definitely a theater movie. It's also produced by Coleman Domingo, who's going to be mentioned again later, but that man's having a great year, and this is one great movie. Finally, to top this section is the movie I saw twice at Sundance. I Saw the TV Glow. It follows a kid who grows up watching this TV show with their friend, only to grow up and have distant memories of that series. But in recollecting those thoughts, it spirals into a mesh of reality that they can't escape as it starts meshing into one. It's directed by Jane Schoenbrunn, who previously did We're All Going to the World's Fair, which was a really creepy movie about being online. Man, this one's better. It's produced by Emma Stone and her husband Dave McCrary, and they've done really great stuff. The music by Alex G is great in Dolby. The cinematography is top-notch, and it's one of those where even if people aren't vibing with it, if they come out confused, you cannot deny the artistry in this. It may be a little too much to call it Lynchian, but I'm happy that A24 has given this a full release, because this is one of those that I'd want to see alone in a theater, just so I could soak into its world. Simply put, people's takes are going to be very interesting, but I already know this is going to be some people's must-watch movie of the year.
Manny, it was a TV show.
Are you sure that's all it was?
So on the doc side of things, South by had Cheech and Chong's last movie, which had them blazing through their story that recaps their whole career. There was also a Movie Pass documentary, as they're trying to rebuild as well. There's a movie about LARPing that was cute called We Can Be Heroes. And then there was Grand Theft Hamlet, which is about a group of people putting on a Shakespeare play all in Grand Theft Auto.
William Shakespeare's Hamlet. I believe this is the first time it's ever been performed at the Vinewood Bowl. If I could just request that you refrain from killing each other. And don't kill the actors either.
Obviously, I'm a really big documentary fan, so there's a lot that I can recommend out there, as you can see right here, for several topics. But I have a top 10. Starting off, I have Better Angels, the Gospel According to Tammy Faye. This is an upcoming docuseries that covers her life and is seen through the movies, her show, public life just in general. And it's a fascinating take of a public figure who moved through different groups that usually don't get along. The collection of archives and edits was great, and I think it's a story that keeps getting retold because of the type of person that Tammy was and what she went through. In terms of music docs, there was a lot. There was Devo that talks about the band that I only knew from the Whip It song, but they're really fascinating in terms of why they started the band to begin with and what they believe in. There was Luther, Never Too Much, which got into the romantic stylings of that man's soothing voice. There was the story of Lollapalooza and how that festival started. But It's this movie right here, Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story, that tops my music biopics. It covers her story and how a lot of her contributions were kind of just hidden because of the times. Like, it's even about her family finding out who she was and how much she was impacted because they never allowed her story to be out there. To the point that they do this really creative thing in the way they visualize her performances because they never caught that much video of her, so there's just audio. And I think it's a great profile. It's a fantastic look at music and one to add to your list. At number 8, I have the documentary about Frida that got picked up by Prime. It's directed and edited by Carla Gutierrez, who's been the go-to editor for Julie Cohen and Betsy West, two documentarians that I consider the best and truly, like I can vouch, walk their talk. So seeing them come in and help her produce this movie, and then it be incredible, is fantastic. It's a series of animations and photos of Frida's past, all told through her own words and writings. And while it doesn't get too deep, like obviously there's going to be more documentaries for Frida, it definitely embodies her creativity.
Nunca pintaba mis sueños, pintaba mi propia realidad.
Soundtrack to a coup d'etat might just be the best edited movie out of the festivals. It looks back at the 1960s when governments were trying to use musicians to infiltrate politics into the culture, and how those musicians then weaponized their instruments to fight back. It is over 2 hours, but if I'm being honest, this may be one of those where on a rewatch it might go up. Like, did y'all know that the MoMA board was originally all CIA?
Rhythm is my business.
Next up is Will and Harper, that follows Will Ferrell and his best friend, SNL alum writer Harper, as they take a road trip across America after Harper transitions. It's funny, sad, goofy, but it's not really a preachy movie. It's more so one of those where it's two friends reevaluating and reconnecting through their friendship. It's directed by the guy who did Barb and Star, and it's packed with so many cameos all the way down to the after credits. Moving on to my top 5, I have Secret Mall Apartment, a story about 8 people in Rhode Island who created a secret apartment inside of a mall back in 2003. And then the whole thing's told through the camcorder footage that they shot the entire time. The director previously did a South by winner that I liked called Lily Topples the World, and now he's got Jesse Eisenberg on as producer, so I'm really hoping that this gets a big release.
A place that doesn't really exist on any blueprints, and they decide to move in, and they live there on and off for 4 years, filming everything along the way. Black
Box Diaries is directed, produced, and about journalist Shiori Ito, who investigates her own sexual assault case and documents it in order to expose the high-profile person who did her wrong. It's incredibly told and super direct, to the point that she even uses humor to level out a lot of the situations, but always keeps the focus on how corrupt things have gotten that she had to take it into her own hands.
It was mixed feeling. As a journalist, you shouldn't, cover something about you. It's not possible, but that was the only way I had.
As We Speak is a doc about rap music and how lyrics get dissected and used in court, down to the history of where drums come from and how they get weaponized. I think it's a great lesson on rap history, but it also bleeds into the culture and into law, and that's, to me, what makes it stand out.
I wanted the film to map as closely as it could to the language of hip-hop itself, which has always challenged the boundaries of the English language.
Rounding out my top picks is Clemente, about the MLB icon whose legacy spans on the field and off of it. And I think this doc lives up to the legend. It's got everything from talking heads, there's fans, celebrities, professional haters like Bob Costas, but there's also a lot of cool animation, like them animating his grandma's chancla that taught him how to pitch. And they edit in archives so well that it puts you into his mind. He talks about how he used to play up his accent, because then that way he was able to really see the true side of people that were around him.
It's hard to say that anyone was the equivalent of Jackie Robinson, but Clemente is the closest thing.
At number 1, I have the last movie that I caught at Sundance. It was like super late, but I found it so moving that I literally had to shift my whole list around. Daughters follows 4 girls as they prep for the daddy-daughter dance with their imprisoned fathers as a part of this special program. It captures some of the most raw moments between these families, with lines from Little Aubrey that I know are just going to have people reaching for tissues, but it carries this unspoken hurt and shows how much this divide causes a rift. It's somehow produced by Joel Edgerton, so shout out to that man for contributing, but this is one that's going to be coming out to Netflix soon, and considering it's a documentary, I hope that it's able to reach more people that way. Finally, we got the dramas. At 10 is My Dead Friend Zoe. It's the story about a vet who keeps seeing her dead best friend Zoe when she's back in the States, but it's directed by Kyle Hausman-Stokes, who had previously made this into a short. And it's all based off of him enlisting 1 month before 9/11. It's got a stacked cast with Sonequa Martin Green really going all in on the dramatic moments. Natalie Morales and Utkarsh just bring a lot of the humor to this movie, but it's Ed Harris who just steals scenes. Also, it's executive produced by Travis Kelce, so I'm sure it's going to get a really, really big release. Next up, I've got Ghostlight, about a construction worker who reluctantly joins a local production of Romeo and Juliet that ends up helping him through his loss that he's been carrying. It comes from Chicago's own Kelly O'Sullivan and Alex Thompson, who did St. Francis, which I highly recommend. I really like that movie. And not only are they a couple in real life, but the family in the movie is played by a real-life acting family. It's great, and will also be playing at Chicago Critics Film Fest, which is where I'm hoping to catch it again. My following Sundance drama is Between the Temples. It's about a cantor who's visited by his old music teacher who asks him to get bar mitzvahed. And then the boy falls in love with her. Jason Schwartzman is awkwardly perfect in this, since they've been pitching it as a nervous comedy. Carol Kane plays well off of him, but it's Dali De Leon, who is also in Ghostlight, coming in with another great supporting role. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a nice story about people being able to start over at any point of their lives.
And I could be wrong about this. Did you submit a ton of movies to Sundance,
Yeah.
and this is the first one that got in?
This is my 14th time submitting something here.
Really true?
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. They finally, they said, when they called me, they said they were breaking their annual tradition of rejecting my movies.
At 7, it's a new Soderbergh movie about a haunted house that he shot, directed, and edited to all be from the ghost perspective. Man's been shooting on iPhones, and now he's got the smallest high-quality camera that he's fitting in every nook and cranny of this house. I only got one image to show you, but know that once you watch it, it makes you rethink every frame from the start.
But I literally spoke to the presence, and then I think we kind of became friends, and they calmed down. They would set my alarms up and stuff as well. My alarms would just ring. It was pretty intense.
You gotta admit that I murdered that Hamlet scene, bro. Shakespeare is in his grave right now. He rolled over. You did your thing.
Colman Domingo is incredible in Sing Sing. This is a movie about a theater program inside of a prison that helps inmates rehabilitate themselves through performing, with a lot of the real-life members making cameo appearances in the film. If you like movies like The Mustang, Bull, or Jockey, then you're gonna absolutely love this one.
What part do you play?
From time to time, I do act, like we all do.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
Moving into my top 5, I've got A Different Man, a movie where Sebastian Stan plays an actor who goes through an intense surgery in order to alter his face in hopes of getting more roles, and then loses his dream role when another actor who had that condition snatches it from him. You may recognize Adam Pearson from Under the Skin, and here he turns in a complete opposite role, with him being the standout. He's just hilarious in this. It also has Renata Renza, who many of you may know from Worst Person in the World, plus it's A24, so I already know that this is going to be a big one. Movie, on the other hand, picked up my next flick, which is How to Have Sex, a story that follows 3 teen girls during a holiday when one of them starts questioning the events of the prior night. I think director Molly Manning Walker makes the film pop through its colors, costumes, and settings that shift as the characters' emotions do. You can see the influence from Andrea Arnold, which she shouted out, but she is able to fuse it all to make it her own, and it's an incredible movie. At 3, I'm highlighting Exhibiting Forgiveness, that comes from a multi-talented creator named Titus Kaffar, who not only paints in real life, but this man had a short documentary called Shut Up and Paint about his art, where he talked about how his work, once it reached a certain level, was being excluded by the public because only private collections were coming in to take them, and they could never be seen again. Here, it's this real meta story where Andre Holland plays a painter, taking some mannerisms from the director, as he uses his work to reflect his past, but also has to reckon with forgiving his family in the present to move forward. I think the whole cast delivers. It's produced by Derek Cianfrance, who did Place Beyond the Pines, so you know it's got some talent, even on the production side, and it's one of those films that I know is going to stay on my list all the way through the end of the year.
This film is for anybody who's ever struggled with forgiveness. The generation of us whose parents struggled with addiction in the 80s and 90s, now we're old enough to be parents, and our children are beginning to ask us questions.
At 2, I've got Didi, the 2008 throwback that follows a 13-year-old on his last summer before high school, where he learns how to skate, fall flirt, and love his mama who he struggles to understand. It's directed and written by Sean Wong, who previously did the short Nai Nai and Waipo, which I've been shouting out a lot. It was one of my favorites from last year. It even almost won the Oscar, and it should have, but I love how he mentioned that this isn't a memoir, but a story that feels like a memory. They even got the editors of Missing, so they're able to reenact that online era very well, and it is a blast from the past.
Didi means little brother in Mandarin, but it's also a very endearing term that a lot of Chinese parents call their younger sons.
And number one is Jesse Eisenberg's The Real Pain. It's about two cousins who go to Poland to not just learn about their history, but to also try and mend their personal past. It's another one that's produced by Emily Stone and her boo, with a heart-wrenching performance by Kieran Culkin. Like, this man will have you cracking up 1 second with what you know is clearly ad-lib, stuff that was not in the script, and then the next, he gets your stomach knotted. It's an incredible film that cleared my top spot the moment that I saw it, and the fact that Searchlight bought it means that it's technically under Disney, and they know it's so good that on CinemaCon, they released it on the slate along with their superhero movies. They got dozens of indies. They know how good this is, and that's why it's my must-watch movie of the year so far. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Again, a big shout out to Kalshi for sponsoring this and helping us be able to go to these festivals. And a big shout out to all the listeners that we saw along the way. I've seen that some of y'all are working at the studios or PR, even the festivals, and like, yo, it's the craziest thing, like emailing out for a link and having people comment back, listen. Your help is very much appreciated, and I'm just like glad that people are still pursuing a lot of these things for film festivals, because we've been covering them for years, and I think it's one of the best parts of covering movies. Again, I've got the full list over on Intercut, where you can go check out the podcast. We talk about over 200 movies from these past fests, but I just wanted to highlight, put together what I consider to be hopefully a future must-watch movie for your list. There's also a bunch of shorts, here they are all right here. We covered some of those on Intercut as well, but you can add some of these to your list. And other than that, just let me know of any movies that you're curious about, things you want me to expand upon, which ones you want to see full LMEs on. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll start our own film festival soon.